Ladies and gentlemen, do I have a treat for you today? Our next guest I've known for probably about 8 years now. Had an opportunity to meet him at a conference, back in 2017, 16 or
Yeah.
17, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm so thrilled because this is a guy that inspires me every single day with the work that he does, how he builds his business, how he pours into other people, how he gives back, especially around holidays and things and like Thanksgiving and some of the stuff that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I want to introduce you guys to the Matt Plapp, aka the Man in Orange. I want to say that this is an absolute pleasure, Matt. Thank you for being on the Wealth Building Project, sir.
No, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Matt, well, right off the bat, could you give a little bit of background to our listeners, just in terms of how you got started, in terms of creating wealth, creating a business? What was the catalyst for you to get started with America's Best Restaurants?
Well, I'd say if we're going back to when it gets started, I like to say that I won the birth lottery. They say that becoming a human is pretty miraculous on top of it. But I would also argue that being a straight white guy in America lays a pretty good foundation for me. And so I was fortunate that I grew up around my mom and dad that were both entrepreneurs. They both owned multiple businesses. My mom raised me and my brother, was head of the PTA, was involved in our sports, worked at concession stands, and ran an insurance and travel agency. My dad was football coach, Boy Scout master, and ran the other companies as well. So I got to see at an early age what opportunity was. I wasn't handed anything when I got out of high school or college. When I got out of college, I was handed an $8,000 credit card bill because my dad said he did everything in his power to keep up with me during college. And he said, "Here's your gift." And I'm like, "What's this?" Like, I'm done. Like, that 8 grand is yours. Have fun. You got your college loan. You got that. Good luck. And
Have
so
fun.
I think they laid a pretty good foundation that I was a spoiled kid growing up. And at some point I recognized that you get what you get.
Yeah,
And I saw my mom and my dad. I appreciate my mom more than anything because she was raising me and my brother, and we
yeah.
were both shitheads. And so watching her raise us and hustle and run a company made it easy when I got out of college. But where I'm at today in 1999, I got into marketing. I learned how to build a website to build a boat dealership's website for me, my brother, and dad. We started an online boat dealership. And I think back to 99, I'm like, what was I smoking? Like, I didn't even know what the internet was. I didn't know how to build anything. I happened to have a client that sold computers and books on how to build computers. And I bought one. And it's kind of funny because I'm not a tech guy. I am on accident now,
Yeah.
but I used to make fun of my wife, our senior in college, for being on this stupid thing called email. Like we had a co-ed dorm in college, and if I couldn't find her in her dorm room, she was in this dumb little thing called the email lab. And it's like 98, right? 97,
Yeah.
98. I'm like, it's so stupid. Like, call the people, write a letter. And then 2 years later, I'm building a website to sell boats on, which we eventually grew to a $15 million a year, 3 location boat dealership.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my start of things.
But
And
before
then,
before you continue, I have to say this. The similar experience when I was a freshman in college, and I had friends from high school start reaching out to me saying, "Well, hey, send me an email." And I'm like, "What's an email?" And they're like, "Well, just go to the library and register. You'll have an email. Register at the school." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. So you want
uh,
me to get up and walk out in the cold to the library, which is 10 minutes that in that direction, to get on and register for some email when you could just pick up the phone and call me?"
call me.
I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
Right. So no, I didn't get into email until we
Yeah.
started working. So I just had to tell you that. But sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
So around that exact time, I was accidentally learning the internet, accidentally built a very dynamic brick and mortar boat dealership, which turned out to be the largest of its type on the internet in by 2003. And at the same time, I worked in radio advertising. And working in radio advertising was almost like a master's degree in small business because my dad taught me, I got my sales skills from my dad.
Mm,
And my dad taught me uh, needs analysis, and you don't sell somebody something if they don't need it. And you become friends, and like you become the trusted resource that if you go and meet with somebody only to sell them something, you already started off on a bad note. And so through my first couple years of radio, I had become a trusted resource for a lot of my clients.
Mm.
And I had one client, I forget, Dane Hessling, Cincinnati Dental Services. We're playing golf. And he goes, "Are you ever going to pitch me?" "What do you mean?" It's like, "We've played golf for the last 2 years and you've never asked me to buy any advertising." And I'm like, "Man, I think you're a great prospect for us. And I'm confident that once you get to a point where it maybe is presents itself, you'll bring it up. But I mean, I like playing golf with you." And he
Yeah.
eventually became a very large client. And I think by me creating those relationships, more of them leaned into asking me advice. And so, whereas most radio reps went in, "Hey, here's what you got, 20 grand, here's what 20 grand gets you." I was the person that says, "Hey, Matt, come look at my media buys. Tell me what you think of, Channel 5, right? Yeah. Tell me if I'm getting the right rates. What do you think of
Mm.
my billboard creative? What do you think of this thing called the internet?" And so while I was building this internet company and a brick and mortar retail, on the other side, I'm talking to 100 small business owners every month with a very in-depth conversation and getting to understand what works and what doesn't. And that built the framework for this company because when 2008 came around and the economy collapsed and we went broke, because I had left radio, I went to run the business. We grew it to 15 million. And July of 2007, we did 1.4 million in sales. July of '08, we did 48 grand in sales with the same overhead. And so we each lost about $1 million liquid that summer. And I had started doing consulting as a side gig, just as a hobby,
Yeah.
and that turned into this company, which, today, here we are 16 years later. It's 49 employees, about 20 or so contractors across the world. Most of my employees are local here in Kentucky,
Yep.
and we service about 2,000 restaurants between our three entities.
It's funny. You had mentioned, just when you talk about the relationships and adding value with your prospects and clients at that time when nobody else is doing it, right? Everyone else is selling. And I talk about this all the time because I get hit up I mean, I know you must, but I get hit up every single day, 20 times plus a day on people trying to pitch and sell me, especially on LinkedIn. And I
Oh,
understand and
God.
respect the hustle. I do. But I mean, I've always similar try to figure out how do I add value first because I just never felt good. I've sold insurance, I've sold real estate. I just never felt comfortable going in just trying to pitch somebody right away because I'm such a relationship focused person. And so I found that out. Uh, and I've tried to give some advice to folks. Sometimes I just ignore it or archive because I don't want to deal with it. But many times I try to, I'm like, look, you're trying to sell me and you don't even know me. You don't know anything about me. Not to mention
Yep.
with AI and all this, like you're not even really paying attention to my profile. And if you
Yep.
were, you would notice that, we're in the same business.
Yep.
You're trying to sell me leads. I'm like, and do consulting. It's what I do. So,
Yep.
it gets very frustrating, but I love that. And did you know? And I learned it a lot. Like I was kind of naturally doing that, but I learned it a lot from books.
Yeah.
There's a really good book, called "Never Eat Alone" by Keith Ferrazzi that really painted the picture of how to build these relationships. There's another one called Super Connectors that I also love that just spoke to me. What was your inspiration for just that? Was it just a natural? Did you get that from your dad? Because I know your dad was just a
My
hustling machine.
majority of that from my dad.
Yeah.
He called it consultative selling, is
Yeah.
that you consult first, then you sell. And if in the consultation process, you don't, number one, you should become friends with them. If you don't see them as a person you would be friends with and have lunch with and play golf with, go the other way.
Yeah.
Because then you're just stuck with some jackass in your life.
Yeah.
If you see them as a friend, you would never sell a friend something they don't need.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And I remember sitting across from a guy one time when I was doing some stuff with the Bengals radio network. Got the guy from Bengals, myself, and this client who had bought a 3-year contract of sports marketing. And in advertising, there's no such thing as a contract technically. I mean, it's biggest crock you know what. So we're sitting there and I could tell the pain in this guy's eyes that his business was not doing well. Well, if
Mm,
you're on the Bengals radio network, that is the FU part of your budget.
mm,
And for him, I looked at him and said, dude, there's a lot better ways you could be using this money. What if I canceled your agreement this season, took a year off? I gave you to my friend who sells cable advertising, who has a better zone for where you're at, reaches your customers at a better point, and can help you sell more auto repair than being on the radio during a Bengals game.
Mm.
And we walked out of that meeting, and my boss wanted to shoot me, was pissed, like was irate. We can't do that. Like, dude, the guy's going to be out of business in a year. I would rather him be a friend and in business with the right decision in a year and come back
Yeah.
than shove a sports contract down his throat, have him go out of business, have him not pay the bill. It's not the right thing. And so for me, it was always that. And then some of the books and training I did go through early on, Zig Ziglar, Tom
Yeah.
Hopkins. My dad took me to a thing called the Success Summit back in 1999 at US Bank Arena, downtown Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And had Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, a couple other people there. One of the presidents, I think, like former president, showed up and spoke. And it was the thing where they spoke and they said, now go to the back of the room and buy my stuff. And you'd run back to the room. I spent like $1,000 on this portfolio of cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And it was all on a needs analysis, getting to know who you're talking to. Like, you don't go into a doctor, at least you shouldn't. If you walked into a doctor and said, hey, I'm here to have some things looked at, and they said, great, we need to surgery your left shoulder. Well, my shoulder's fine, it's my right knee. Oh, well, we'll do. I mean, that's what we do in business. And
Yeah.
I get them all the time. I get sales pitches like, I can save you 20% on this. You don't know what I'm paying. Like, how
No
can you
idea.
save me? Like, be honest. And I consult for a lot of marketing companies too as a mentor. And I tell them, like the one guy the other day, I went to his Facebook page, his personal account,
Yeah.
and the headline is him against his BMW and 20 leads for your business. And I'm like, where's your wife? Where are your kids? Like that's who you are first as a
Yeah.
human. That's who people buy from.
That's
And
right.
like, you don't know that you can get 20 leads because you don't know the budget. You don't know the acquisition cost. I mean, that's ambiguous. So
Yeah.
I think it all comes with number one, selling who you would be friends with, or at least building relationships with people you'd be friends with. It's how I
Yep.
built this with you.
Yep.
And then at that point, finding out who they are, what they're doing. And if there's a need, then do it. I've got a training we roll out next month called URMP, Ultimate Restaurant Marketing Plan, but also You Are Matt Plapp. That if I owned your restaurant, here's how I'd market it. And in the training, it's $99 a month. And the videos come out next week, the ads, it starts in January. And the idea behind it, I took like the main sales pitch. I'm not here to sell you services from my two companies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to sell you my theories and beliefs that are based on fact and 16 years of working with about 10,000 restaurants.
Mm.
If you subscribe to those theories, those practices, I don't care what software you use. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care who does your advertising. Just take my theories and run with them.
Go
If at
do it.
some point you deem that my services on the other side can help you with those, great. But if not, pay $99 a month, become a restaurant marketing genius, and have fun.
Man, I love that. I will tell you that, and I know this because I post about this all the time. I truly believe in my heart of hearts, and I don't have the statistical data. I'm sure we could get it. I believe that you, my friend, are the number one person to help people get butts and seats in the restaurant world. And
I
so,
appreciate that.
I've just seen it over the last 8 years. I'm convinced, and what I love is that and this is hard for me because I never like to be pigeonholed into one thing as a salesperson. I was a jack of all trade kind of guy. But what made you decide to just hone in on the restaurant space and just go all in there and evolve there? What was the catalyst for that?
So it was 2016. I had met Billy Jean, that's how I know you.
That's right.
And I
Our
had
guy.
like 6 different places that we were succeeding. I had a marketing agency for at that point 8 years. We had car dealerships, chiropractors, home builders, you name it. I
Yeah.
think we had 31 industries we were working in at one point. And we were having success, ironically, in all 31. Now, the reason we were doing that is that none of them knew how to use the internet. And so the fact that I knew how to use email and texting and paid ads and organic marketing and social media SEO, we gave them a step up. So
Yeah.
we were basically taking a person who's 400 pounds overweight and showing them how to walk down the street and exercise. So it wasn't hard. But when I looked at it deeper, I said, okay, who are the top 5 to 10 that we're killing it with? And it was car dealerships, it was RVs and boat dealerships,
Hmm.
it was doctors, it was restaurants. And then I looked deeper, and Billy is who gave me this. Who do you enjoy dealing with?
Mm.
Like, for example, my car dealer, we could print them money. The guy's a cool guy. He had like 42 locations. He's got a private jet. He owns the Cincinnati Reds. He's got mansions around the country. We are not in the same world. Nice guy.
Yeah.
He's never inviting me to lunch.
Yeah.
And at the same time, a lot of his general managers I dealt with were pricks. Like they thought they were way up here. Like,
Hmm.
and I don't play that game.
Yep.
And so I started looking at it. I said, okay. And he said, Matt, who are your top five relationships? And two of them were a guy named Jim Combs and Shaheen Kazemi. And Shaheen, ironically enough, now works for us. And so those
Nice.
were both restaurant owners. And I started to think about why I related to those two guys. And it was because I related to the hustle that running a restaurant is one of the hardest businesses. And then I thought about, okay, what is my biggest skill set? It's understanding how to get consumer data from the consumer, how to get Markel to give me his name, phone number, email, birthday in exchange for a free pizza, and then how to use the data correctly. And so I knew that if I looked at all of our clients, even if I take away the relationship side of who I like working with, a car dealer only needs the data every once to 3 to 5 years.
Mm.
Whereas a restaurant, you can eat at a lot of restaurants 2 to 3 times a week. And so I saw that I had the people I related to that were, in the trenches of running their business that were good old boys were the restaurant owners. And they were, I guess you could say, blue collar.
Yeah.
And so I related with their hustle. I related with their grind. I related with the fact that they've probably been telling their spouse for 5 years, next year's the year. Because I've been telling my wife that for 15. Next year's the year. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to do this. And we're going to have this, that. Now, who knows if that next year's in 20 years. So I related there. And then I realized I had a skill that benefited them at a high level. And then I looked at the industry as a whole and I realized that, man, all these companies suck. Like you saw, I don't know if you saw the post I put on LinkedIn the other day. McDonald's. McDonald's is the
Yeah.
number one restaurant brand in the world with
Yeah.
probably the most money to market advertising of burgers in the world.
Yeah.
And their ad on LinkedIn, which I thought was a strange place for an ad for McDonald's, their ad was quality ingredients. I mean, is there anybody on this earth that thinks that McDonald's has quality ingredients? I don't think any of us are fooled by
No.
what McDonald's is. We
No.
all eat it occasionally. None of us think we're eating, fresh beef.
Capital Grille.
Yeah, yeah. And fresh vegetables. Like, give me a break. And so, like, when you see it at that level, and that's one thing I saw also was we were dealing with early on a few big companies. And I'm like, how is this company that has $1 million a month budget stupider than me? And it was because they were taking the cheap route. They were hiring talent right out of college. They weren't investing in people that understood the marketing at the level they needed to. And so
Yeah.
I just saw that we had an expertise, we had a skill set, we related to the people. And I also looked and said there's 1.5 million restaurants in America, another couple million worldwide. That for me to succeed at a high level, like one of my goals is to have enough money to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
for me to get there, I just need a couple thousand of them.
Yeah. Man, I just first of all, I love hearing that, and like I said, it takes a lot to focus in on that, and a lot of like a lot of data, and to steer it. You've always been very intentional about where you're going, what you're looking for, how you take care of business, how you show up for your people. At the Wealth Building Project, we talk about our core four, right? We talk about your body, your being, your balance, and your business. And to me, what that means is, right, like, how do we take care of ourselves mentally and physically? Like, how do we, show up for things and people that are bigger than us, right? So spirituality, right? Not religion, but spirituality. Um, the balance is our family and of course, obviously our business. So those are the things that we like to focus on in terms of true wealth creation. Your intent, and I know this about you because I know number one, you've been involved in CrossFit in terms of the ownership of a CrossFit gym. I know that you've got a business in terms of your family business, and
Yep.
having your son and having your dad involved in those things as well. But talk to us a little bit about that. I know you have a philosophy. Share with us your philosophy
Yeah.
for that, because I know it's a little bit maybe different words, but it's very similar in terms of concept.
Yeah, it's real similar. I have two philosophies: lead, market, sell, mind, body, spirit. As an entrepreneur, your number one thing you have to is lead. You have to lead your team. You have to lead the people that are watching you and realize that your words matter. I had something I said a few years ago, kind of half-ass joking, kind of serious.
Hmm.
And I realized a year later, one of my employees took that to heart the wrong way. And one of my other employees said, Matt, you got to realize when you speak, it means something. Like you don't think you're special. You're way ahead of a lot of people. And so you have to lead your company, which means in my mind, you better be doing what's right. You better be financially being smarter than everybody else. You better be fitness, nutrition, all these things. You
Yes.
have to market your business. Every single day, Matt Plapp markets Matt Plapp. My ring is my MP. I don't know if you've seen this or not. That's my MP logo. I
Yeah.
wear orange shoes, almost Jordans every day. I have food socks on most of the days. My office is orange. My water cup is orange.
Yeah.
My jacket I had on today is orange. Like I market all the time because
All
I've
the
put
time.
so much time, effort, and energy into this. It cost me nothing to do what I just showed you for the most part.
Right.
And then selling, I'm constantly selling my vision, my beliefs, and my products. I'm selling my vision. I got a copy of it here on my desk, my vivid vision. This is a document that lays out where our company will be by May 17th, 2027. It's got our vision of our company.
Oh, I
It's
love
got our
that.
team. It's got where America's best restaurants will be. It's got where Driver, our restaurant platform, will be. And it's got our next headquarters.
Yeah.
And so I'm always selling to our vendors, to our bankers, to our customers, to our leads, to our employees, to prospective employees. And then I'm also always selling what we do and our theories. And so those are three things. The other one that kind of aligns with what you're talking about is mind, body, spirit.
Mm.
That somebody made a comment on LinkedIn the other day about who's most important. The most important person to any of us is ourselves.
Mm.
So if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not right, then it's a trickle down effect. And so, like in my world, it goes me, it goes my wife, it goes my two kids, it goes my mom, my dad, and my brother. Then it goes my employees, family, and employees and friends, and then everybody else.
Mm.
And so, if I don't take care of Matt Plapp, it affects everybody down that line. And if I don't
Right.
take care of Matt Plapp and take care of Christy Plapp, my wife, it affects everybody. And so, mind, body, and spirit is something I feel strongly about. That, like mind, you got to be right. You've
That's
got.
right.
That's why I always say I like to say all the time. Somebody says, "How are you doing?" I'll say, "I'm amazing." And the people like look at you sometimes. What do you mean? I'm like, I'm a straight white guy in America. If I have any complaint, smack me in the face.
Yeah.
Because if there's any profile in the world that has it laid out, it's right there. I would argue anybody in America is in that part.
Yes, sir.
And so you can just go down the line. All of us have a certain step up over certain people, but at the same time, that can also be your handicap. But it comes down to your mind.
Yeah.
Positive mindset is huge. I've got my keychain, my card. Here's another. Here's another marketing. My keychain is my logo. The back of it
Dude.
has a. I have these in our office. We give out. The hardest part about writing your story is knowing you're worth the ink. So it's a mindset that if you don't believe in yourself, if you're not mentally strong, prepared in life, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
What do you got back there?
It's funny. I still have it here. I think I still have it.
He's going deep
So
into the dresser.
there was something I had. I have it somewhere. I just thought of it that you pulled that out, but it was something you gave me when I came to when I was at Cincinnati for work a few years back, and it was I think you had just created the a USB.
Oh yeah,
And
the flash
it was
drive,
it was a
the
yeah
ROI
flash
experts
drive
one.
with the brand it's in this drawer somewhere over here. I was going to pull it out, but no man,
Yeah, so
you've done a phenomenal job. You always have done a phenomenal job on the branding. But when I first saw the MP as the fist, I fell down. I was like, this
yeah,
guy, like I just like I said, man, continue to be inspired in how you think these things through, you execute. I know you don't waste a lot of time. When you have a concept or an idea, you test it.
yeah.
I remember the first podcast you and I did together was the I Know Matt
I
Platt.
know
I think
Matt Platt.
somebody,
That was terrible. It's terrible.
but but you started it. I think one day somebody said it at one of the conferences we were at. It was like, I know
Yeah.
Matt Platt. You seem to
Oh,
know everybody. And
the
you're like,
original sign is out here on the wall where somebody wrote that as a joke. Yeah. So to wrap up the mind, body, and spirit, it's
yeah,
having your mind right and believing in yourself. I have a playlist on my phone called Every Day, and it's 5 songs I make a big attempt to listen to multiple times every day. It reminds me who I am, where I'm
yeah,
going, what I am.
yeah.
Uh, The last song on that playlist is I'm Only Human. It's because we are. We make mistakes every day.
That's right.
The second part's body. Like there's no reason that every one of us are not in physical shape.
Yeah.
I'm 48 years old. I can beat my entire family in a sprint. My daughter's a college athlete. My son was could have been a college athlete, came to work for me.
Yeah.
Like I pride myself on, like I've got a 40-inch plus box jump. One of my goals by the time I'm 50 is to dunk. I've never dunked, but I'm like trying to figure out how I can
How you can do it.
engineer my body to dunk. Like I can still run probably a 4.8, 4.9, 40 at 48.
Yeah.
And we all make excuses. We have been poisoned by our government. Like the US, the food we have here, without a doubt, has put us all at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it costs me nothing to walk out of my building, to get some sunlight, walk for a couple miles every day, come back, do 50 push-ups, do 50 sit-ups, do 50 air squats, do 50 lunges. You do that every single day of the week for 365 days a year. I don't care who you are,
Yeah.
how much you're out of shape. You will be in shape. So you have to take care of your body. And the last part's your spirit, which to me is the universe. Like I have a tendency to be a jackass. I understand that. I'm a unforgiving person. I go hard in the paint. But I have a sign outside my office when I walk by. It says, "Be kind, be humble."
Yeah.
And it's something the universe speaks. Things happen for a reason. And so if you're a good person, if you genuinely care about people, if you make the right decision most of the times, if you're not selfish, you'll win in life. And so those are some of the things I live by.
Well, man, that we cut from the same cloth. We speak very similar languages. Both of us had an opportunity to play football growing
Yeah.
up, and in college as well. And you had mentioned that mindset. Tom Coughlin gave me a scholarship to Boston College many moons ago, and I'll never forget some of the leadership lessons and mindset lessons that he would instill. And so one of them in particular that happened, while he was head coach of the New York Giants, but he had a quote while being interviewed during the Super Bowl. He beat my beloved Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, and so I'm okay with it because it was him. But one of his players was interviewed and said, well, yeah, we're going to win the game. And you know how the media is, and so the media you'll spin that in. That's a guarantee.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they asked him about it. He says, no. He's like, that's not what he did. He goes, but listen, he goes, as a team, we strive to be humble enough to prepare
Yep.
and confident enough to perform. And that always stuck with me because there was this paradox. It was like, hey, it's okay to have some swagger about yourself and to walk with your head high and your shoulders up. But don't ever think you're so good
Yep.
that you can't do the work and show up and be humble enough to actually prepare and make sure you're showing up for people. So you had mentioned that sign, right? To say, hey, be humble. It's an important aspect, but we have to be able to show up with confidence. And I
Yeah.
think you earn that right by preparing, right?
Yeah. I
Which
mean,
is amazing.
luck is created.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. People that have the wrong mindset. Oh, you're lucky. Nobody's lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
you hit the lottery. You know what? You can also argue that the people that hit the lottery have played it a lot of times.
It's true.
Ashley on my team, her husband won 47 grand on a slot machine last month. They play the slots all the time. It's bound to happen.
It's
Like,
bound to happen.
is there a part of luck? Yes. But if he never plays the slots, he never gets that luck. And it's the same way with
Right.
me. Like I've become really good at a lot of things. And I consistently look back and I'm embarrassed by where I was because the action back then wasn't what it is today. Nothing, nothing was luck. It was
Yeah.
taking action, making adjustments, and
That's
running
right.
hard and fast.
That's exactly right. Um, well, Matt, listen, I really appreciate the time, my friend. I know you're a busy man and you've got a party to plan or at least to execute later today for the holidays.
Yeah.
But I wanted to if you could share where can people find you? Because I know, look, if you don't have to be in the restaurant business to learn from
Yep.
your theories and methods and the way that you carry yourself and do business. So I think, on number one, if our listeners happen to be in the restaurant business or own restaurants, where can they find you? Number one. And
Yep.
then where can also folks find you to learn more about the concepts about marketing, so that they can be better in their business. And then we
Yep.
can also include those in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So my last book I wrote was called Restaurant Marketing That Works. I had a friend of mine ask me, Matt, what advice would you give me for my gym? I took my book, I covered the word restaurant and said, gym marketing that works, chiropractic marketing that works, financial planning, it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Our entire philosophy that we've built off of is ABR, attract, build, retain. I attracted the attention of my wife in college 29 years ago.
Yep.
I built a relationship with her, and somehow I've retained her for 29 years. If you attract the attention of the people who should be doing business with you or can refer you, and then you build a relationship with them, and then you retain their attention, you will win no matter
Yeah.
what you're doing. And all of our stuff's built on that. So if you go to mattplapp.com, mattplapp.com, that's my personal website. I do a daily blog post and a daily podcast. I've done a daily blog post since April of this year. I've done a daily podcast since June of 2022. And I get on a microphone, I travel with it. It's one piece of advice. I used to have longer podcasts. At one point, I had 7 podcasts a week that were video and audio that were
Yeah.
40 minutes long, lots of questions, lots of answers. I got about 2 years into it, about 500 episodes or so. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I don't even want to watch this crap. Like, I got homework every day times
Yeah.
10 things. And so what I ended up doing was creating a daily podcast called Restaurant Marketing Secrets. And again, replace the word restaurant with whatever you do. It doesn't matter. It's the
Right.
same crap. It's the same mediums. But what I do is every day is one actionable piece of advice. Sometimes it's mental philosophy, it's mental, work. Sometimes it's, philosophy. Sometimes it's motivation. Other times it's like, hey, here's how to do A, B, and C, and here's why you should do it. And here's the benefit of it. But mattplapp.com, links for our companies are on there, links to the podcast, my books, all that good stuff.
Oh, that's perfect. And before we get out of here, I just want to go back because you had mentioned ABR, attract, build, retain. Did that have anything to do with America's Best Restaurant, ABR, as well?
So it did. I'll give you a book you should read that got me on this. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it's about eliminating electronic devices, ironically, out of your life so that you can think clear and be uninterrupted. Well, I had attract, build. I had this, and I can't remember what it was. We had a theory I used for a long time. It was AB something. It was
Yeah.
ABA. And I was like, man, what if attract, build, what if America's Best Restaurants also stood for this? Like, what could the R be? And I couldn't put my finger around it. And so I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, with my wife and kids, and I go in and out of this. But deep work teaches you to disconnect. And so, like when I go out with my family, a lot of times I don't take my phone with me. And so
Mm.
we'll leave at 4 o'clock to go do something. We'll get back at midnight. I don't have my device, so I'm present. And we were in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Didn't have my phone. It was in the log cabin. We're at this climbing park where we were there for 3 hours while my daughter and her boyfriend went through and climbed in the air, did all this crap. And I'm just sitting there. My daughter and my son and my wife are on their phones. These two maniacs are up climbing around in these trees and shit. And I'm just sitting there looking around. And that becoming comfortable with boredom
Yeah.
opens your mind and you
Yes.
stop interrupting your thought processes. And so that's where I came up with that. In that process, I was like, every word I could think of with R. And then I had always talked about you're trying to retain your customers' attention. That's the key of all advertising. Your goal is to live in somebody's mind rent free so that they consistently buy what you're selling or think of you for it. And it came up. I was like ABR. And it took about, I think it was like 3 or 4 hours in. I remember like, oh my God, I got it. And I had no phone to tell anybody. I ran over to Christy, got my phone. I'm like, I got to text Doug and Ashley something. And so it's funny is they all know too that they'll get phone calls or texts from Christy's phone all the time. And then when
Yeah.
they can't get a hold of me and they need to be a hold of me and I'm
They
not
call you.
answering, they'll call Christy. But the ABR was intentional and it came
Yeah.
from that, but it really rhymes.
I love it, man. In the last few weeks, I've been working hard at working to do meditation. I've never done meditation.
Yeah, me neither.
And I'm getting better at it the more I do every day. I get better at it. And then we're just talking like even if it's just 10 minutes. But the first day I tried to, it's like I close my eyes and I'm sitting there and I can't like organize anything. I can't think through. I can't calm down like my mind. And because I'm
Yeah,
not used to that, right? Even going to bed, we typically leave the TV on. And then so it's like, look, we have to get comfortable in the quiet
yeah,
and get back to that, right? And so that's just that's if anything, it's probably some of the best advice right there is just to actually be quiet for a while, take that walk. Don't always have to listen to something or do something. Think through things, and your ideas can start to, really good ideas can come to fruition. So,
Yep.
man, love your branding.
Think about it. Think about it. You're at a stoplight, you pull your phone out.
Yeah.
You got a downtime in a bathroom at a football game, you got your phone. You're in a restaurant. Like, so if you go to mattplapp.com, there's also a page there called My Book Recommendations. And it's got
Okay.
all the books that have helped me as a professional get better.
Oh, I love it. Well, everything starts with mattplapp.com. So everyone check out mattplapp.com. Follow him on social media. Follow his blog, his posts, everything, and you'll without a shadow of a doubt, you'll learn a lot regarding leadership, regarding mind, body, spirit, regarding building a team, and looking at his entire story. It is a phenomenal one. Matt, thank you so much. Everybody,
Thank
don't
you.
forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. This is the Wealth Building Project. And thank you, Matt, for joining us. Happy holidays, my friend.
Thanks, Marco.
All right, guys.